18, one of the cows gave birth to a female calf. 1 week after its birth, the newborn red heifer was certified by a board of rabbis as fulfilling all the biblical requirements. The rabbis emphasized that the heifer could at any time acquire a blemish, rendering it unsuitable. They will be inspecting the calf periodically to verify its condition. Could this calf be the one that will open the door to the building of Israel's third temple? We need to ask, will Israel get its third temple? 2 different prophecies foretell that a temple will stand on the Temple Mount in the end time. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 and 4 prophesies that the Antichrist will sit in the temple of God claiming to be God. Of course, you can't sit in a temple if there is no temple. In Revelation 11, verse 1 and 2, the Apostle John was told to measure the temple and those that worship therein. This prophecy is to occur 42 months before the Battle of Armageddon and the second coming of Jesus to the earth. You can't measure a temple if there's no temple to measure. It's obvious from these 2 prophecies, Israel will get its red heifer since the temple cannot be constructed without one. Now, let's give you the latest developments. A trial run. A major step has recently been made towards obtaining the ashes of a red heifer. After an intensive study into the practical details, an actual heifer, not yet the red one, was burned in precisely the manner that was commanded in Numbers 19. The experiment was designed to check the amount of ash produced and whether it would be enough to purify every Israeli living today. This action was also designed to practice conducting the red heifer procedure according to biblical instructions. The trial burning was conducted by Professor Zohar Amar, a professor in the Department of Land of Israel Studies at Bar-Ilan University. A cow weighing 595 pounds was used for the experiment and was ritually slaughtered adjacent to the prepared pyre. The blood required for the ritual was collected in the hand of a Cohen. The cow was lifted onto the pyre by 12 men using a jury-rigged litter. The experiment was carried out according to the strictest details of the ritual, with the head of the cow towards the south and her legs facing west. When the experiment began, the fire spread quickly, and within 1 hour, the belly of the cow collapsed. At this point, cedar wood, hyssop, and scarlet dyed wool were added to the pyre according to the biblical instructions. After 2 hours, the fire reached a temperature of 940 degrees. The fire burned for 9 hours, but several days passed before the ashes had cooled sufficiently to allow them to be collected. In addition to the heifer, 1.4 tons of wood were used in the experiment. This produced a total of 145 pounds of ash, or about 4% of the original matter. Professor Amar estimated that the ashes from the actual animal represented 24 pounds of the total ash. According to Professor Amar, ritual purification requires only 1 drop of the ash water to be sprinkled on each person or object. On this basis, Professor Amar determined that 145.5 pounds of ash would be sufficient for at least 660 billion sprinklings. He also noted that it is permitted to add wood. Each addition of 1 ton of wood would permit an additional 250 billion sprinklings. Even if we assume that a portion of the water will be wasted or not fully utilized, or if a portion of the ash is lost. In any case, the ashes from one red heifer will be sufficient for purifying a huge number of people, Professor Amar concluded. This clarifies how the ashes from one cow were sufficient to purify several generations of Israel, even after the temple itself was desecrated in 70 AD. How close are we to a qualified red heifer? A red heifer was born on August the 28th, 2018, that the rabbis said was kosher. According to Professor Amar, a red heifer must be 2 years and 1 day old in order to qualify for use. Considering this, the red heifer born on August the 28th of 2018 would be old enough on August the 29th, 2020. However, this red heifer must not develop disqualifying features between now and then if it is to be used. So how does this tie in to Trump's peace plan? President Trump has been working on a peace plan for the Middle East for 2.5 years. One of the issues that any Palestinian-Israeli plan will have to deal with will be the status of the Temple Mount. This is where Israel's first and second temple stood. The Jewish people are determined to build their third temple there. President Trump has announced that he will reveal his peace plan after Israel's elections on September the 19th of 2019. The chances are quite strong that Trump's plan could be signed sometime in 2020. If all goes according to plan, the red heifer born on August the 28th of 2018 would be ready for use by August the 29th, 2020. Is it a mere coincidence these two events are converging at the same time? Or could it be the orchestration of divine providence? We'll have to wait and see for the answer to that question. Now, another question that automatically comes up: do Christians need a red heifer? Some may wonder if Christians are still under the law of the red heifer. Scripture clearly teaches us the Old Testament law was merely a type and shadow of New Testament realities. The book of Hebrews says it this way: for the law, having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of the things, can never with those sacrifices which they offered year by year continually make the comers thereunto perfect. That's Hebrews 10:1. The book of Colossians